Hello everyone, my name is Hayden, and welcome back to My Two Cents, my little bite-sized movie review series about recently released movies. Today, I'm going to be talking about Renfield, the recently released horror film, which is sort of like a pseudo-sequel to the original Dracula. Renfield was a really frickin' good movie. I had a lot of fun with it. I went to go see it with my family, my mom, my mom, my sister, and my older brother. Oh, and my stepdad. We went to go see it at our local B&B theaters, not sponsored, and we had a little bit of complication. Before I get into talking about the actual movie, it's worth telling this little vignette. So if you don't want to hear the vignette, skip to this time code. We went to the theater, and when we got there were no previews or anything like that. Despite the fact that we got there on schedule, there were no previews or anything like that. It just went right into the movie, and the theater didn't play Renfield. It started playing some weird art house film from A24 that I completely forgot the name of, but it had Joaquin Phoenix in it. And everyone in the theater was sitting there like, is this Renfield? I don't think this is Renfield. And I'm like, no. As soon as Joaquin Phoenix shows up, it's kind of obvious it's probably not going to be Renfield. But eventually, the staff caught on to it, and they fixed it, so we got to actually see our movie. But after that, we actually got to watch the movie, and it was really, really freaking good. So the basic plot rundown of Renfield is that Robert Montague Renfield was a real estate agent in the early 20th century, and he went to Dracula's castle to go make a deal with him that would hopefully better his life for him and his family, but it ended up leading to him becoming Dracula's minion, essentially. And he basically nurtures and takes care of Dracula for 100 years, pretty much, which is hilarious to me. So the film takes place in modern day, and it involves Renfield, who goes to a Persons in Help codependent meeting where he meets victims of domestic abuse, and he goes there so that he can find people to feed to Dracula. He's not feeding the victims, he's feeding the abusers to him. Worth mentioning, Renfield is a good person, he's a good guy. Eventually, he starts to realize that Dracula is horrible. He's a horrible, horrible guy, who would have thought? He actually tries to get out of this abusive relationship with him, and he improves his life a whole lot. It's really sweet. He redoes his wardrobe, he gets his own place, he's really working for it. And he meets this police officer lady, Rebecca, who's hunting down this crime family that killed her father, the Lobo family. The main villain outside of Dracula is Teddy Lobo, who's the son of the leader, his mom. So there's a couple of plot arcs going around here, with Renfield trying to get out of this bad relationship, and Rebecca and Renfield trying to take down the Lobo crime family. They honestly mesh pretty well. The way I describe it is probably really bad, but trust me, it meshes really well. It's a really fun plot because the whole movie the message is really sweet, and I think it's very well handled. It's handled in a very respectful way, and I think that's admirable because this could have been so heavy-handed or disrespectful, and the fact that it isn't is a serious, plus side to the film. That it can act as a very violent horror comedy, but also as a legitimate message towards people in abusive relationships. I'm not going to say much about it because, frankly, I'm not in the place to do so, and I am not knowledgeable enough about that subject to comment on it that much. From my perspective, I think it was handled very well. I think it was handled very respectfully, and I appreciate the filmmakers for giving a shit about it. The cast was absolutely fantastic. Nicholas Hoult plays Renfield, who is this really sweet guy. You'd think as the minion to Dracula he'd be a bad person, but he isn't. He's a really nice guy. He really likes helping people. He's a humanitarian in a way. There's a part in the film where a group of bar goers are getting attacked by the Lobo family, and Rebecca's there too. And Renfield, just with very little hesitation, protects all these people, and he's kind of surprised at how good he feels when he protects innocent people instead of killing them to feed the Dracula. It's this whole self-discovery thing as well, with Renfield, realizing, I'm not a bad person, I prefer doing good things. And the group of people that he hangs out with at this codependence meeting, they're all really funny. They're all really sweet. They're really funny. They embrace Renfield with open arms and try to help him with this relationship. They don't really understand that he's Dracula's minion until a little bit later. But the fact that they were so quick to help him is really sweet, because they could have all easily been assholes, and that would have just made the film not great. A standout of that group is Brandon Scott Jones as Mark, the support group leader. He's really funny. His line delivery is absolutely hilarious. And again, he plays a very sweet character because he's the support leader. He's keeping an eye on everyone, making sure everyone's doing good, listening to them, listening to their problems. He's really sweet. Nicolas Cage. All right, let's talk about the Cage. He plays Dracula, and oh my god, he is absolutely hilarious and terrifying. Nicolas Cage can play comedy very well. He obviously has several moments in the film of him, overacting in the way he does, and it's great because it's Nicolas Cage and you put up with it unless you hate him. You love him or you hate him. But there are also moments in the film where he can be legitimately, threatening, especially towards Renfield, because, again, he's an abuser in this relationship, so he's very manipulative. He's very sly and slimy. He's just a horrible, horrible man. And when he's talking to Renfield and with this... when he starts playing the victim card, he's the victim and Renfield's the abuser, it's just so gross. You love to hate him, because it's Nicolas Cage playing just this awful, awful guy. He put in an absolutely fantastic performance, and I think it's just adding onto the list of films that Nicolas Cage is in where he's actually doing a really good job, and he's not just some over-the-top B-movie actor, Now, obviously, it's a horror movie. It's R-rated, and the bloodshed is absolutely insane. There is so much violence in this movie. I just talked about Evil Dead Rise. That film has nothing on Renfield. The absolute carnage in this film. Oh my goodness gracious. There's a part where Renfield rips off the arms of a guy and then impales a guy with said severed arms. There's a part where, he jumps down from a higher balcony onto a guy hanging off a lower balcony and splits him in half. There's a part where he punches a dude's head clean off. It's insane. It's beautiful, beautiful gore. And early on in the film, when Dracula is still building up his power and, trying to put himself back together after being burned alive in the opening, there are makeup that shows him transitioning from really rotted, falling apart to getting better and better and better until by the time the ending of the movie comes back, he's all in one piece again. But the rotting and slimy flesh, it's so gross, but it's so fucking pretty in a really violent, gory way. And near the end, the support group gets slaughtered, and it feels so heartbreaking because of how much you actually like these characters. It sucks to see these characters die because you love them so much. It's terrible, but it's also amazing because when they die, it's not super over the top or anything like that. There's gore, but they're getting sliced, they're getting bitten, they're getting their throats ripped out. It just hits a lot harder because these were characters that you actually care about. Now, they do come back at the end. Spoiler alert. They come back to life with Dracula blood, because if you pour Dracula blood on something that's dead or injured, it heals them, so they do that. Near the end of the movie, Teddy Lobo and his gang get turned into vampire servants to Dracula because Renfield betrayed Dracula by helping innocent people. So the Lobo family essentially becomes new vampire minions for Dracula. And there's all these fight scenes near the end of the movie. It's really good. It's really fun stuff. I don't want to delve too much into the movies like I tend to do. I try not to talk about, spoil too much, but I always end up doing it. Overall, I'd have to say Renfield was absolutely stellar. While watching the movie, I found very few issues just because of how entertaining it was and how enthralled I was with this film's plot and its characters and how much I loved them. It was really good. There were twists and turns and things like that. There were surprises to be had. There were really fun characters. The film was really funny. Renfield, I might regret this later, but I'm going to have to give Renfield a solid 10 out of 10. That might not hold up, but that's my current consensus, is Renfield at the moment is a 10 out of 10 movie. That's likely to change in the coming future, but at the moment, that is my current opinion on it. go watch Renfield. Seriously, it's still fresh in theaters. If you like horror movies, and you like Nicolas Cage, and you like gore, and you want a really solid message in your movie, go see Renfield. I have been Hayden Descartes. Thank you very much for joining me for my 2 cents. I will see you in the next one.